Okay, well, I think the precariat now is growing at a much faster rate since the crash of 2008. And I think it consists of millions of people across most industrialized countries, if not all industrialized countries. And there are three dimensions that I want to stress in the definition, because I think the definition is important for understanding the political issues that we should discuss later. The first is that the precariat has distinctive relations of production. In other words, it is subject to unstable labor in casual jobs, without a sense of occupational identity, without a corporative narrative. And at the same time, it is the first class in history where the level of education is greater than the level of labor they can expect to be performing. And it has to do an incredible amount of work that isn't counted as labor. So in that respect, it's very distinctive. Its particular labor relations are distinctive. But I don't think that's the most important part of the definition. I think equally important is the fact that the precariat has to rely on money wages, which are volatile, which are fluctuating, and particularly in a country like Portugal, but also in all rich industrialized countries, are stagnant and declining. And because of globalization, and because of the fact that the world's labor supply has quadrupled in the last 2 decades, downward pressure on wages will continue. I think it's a really important point to stress that all of us have to realize that whatever politics we're going to propose must begin on the presumption that although there might be occasional slight rises in wages, real wages will continue to decline in all parts of Europe. And that means that the old income distribution system has broken down in a major way. The share of income going to profits is shot up. The share of income to labor is shot down. But the share going to rent, that is from intellectual property, so-called, and all forms of patents and copyright and everything, is going up even faster. So one of the challenges is to have a politics that looks at that income distribution system as something that has to be overhauled. Now, the last part of the definition of the precariat is that it has distinctive relations to the state. And what I mean by that is that the precariat are losing all the great rights that we take as for granted. They're losing civil rights. They're losing political rights. They're losing social rights. They cannot belong to communities of their choice. And they're losing economic rights. They can't do the sort of work and occupation for which they're qualified. Now, this combination is what defines the precariat. And I think it's right and important politically, strategically, to emphasize the class character of the precariat, because unless we can understand that the precariat is a large group of people, millions, that are going to have to move from being the recipient of state policy, of this neoliberalism, to being active to threaten that system, we're not going to get a countervailing progressive politics. But at the moment, of course, the precariat is divided because it consists of some working class people who've fallen into it. Their parents had working class occupations like miners and shipbuilders and something. They tend to be relatively uneducated and are turning to the far right, the neo-fascist populists. We're seeing that all over Europe and in other parts of the world. The progressive part consists mainly of the young, and not only young, who are educated. They don't get drawn to the far right, but they don't feel any attraction to the old social democrats, the laborist parties, or the neoliberals. So they are looking for a new politics of paradise, as I've called it in the Precariat. And what I've tried to do in the new book, the Precariat Charter, is draw up a program of policies that are intended to increase the sense of recognition, increase the sense of freedom, and to redistribute the key assets on which the precariat depend.